Hi, and welcome to our audiobook series brought to you by Burgapoly Publishing. Let the journey begin. Today we are presenting
Chapter 23, One More Errand. John let out a half-hearted chuckle, but there was no humor behind it. His gaze remained fixed on the endless jungle stretching below, a world that had nearly swallowed them whole. Hopefully, we won't be around long enough to enjoy it. Ray didn't respond immediately. His focus was locked on the horizon, and his grip was steady on the controls. The camp's just ahead. His voice was even, practical, detached. The cage barrier loomed, its presence a familiar threshold, a last line between chaos and whatever passed for safety. Ray angled the shuttle downward, guiding it through the opening with ease. Let's unload the part and get it installed. The compound came into view, a skeletal husk of rusted metal and weathered endurance, a place where survivors dug in their heels, waiting for the next move. The shuttle touched down smoothly, settling into the same scarred landing spot as before. The engines whined into silence, and then movement, precision, urgency. They disembarked quickly, with no wasted words and no hesitation. Max was already at the back, securing the heavy metal part. "Let us help." Max ignored the offer, hoisting the burden onto his shoulder with practiced ease. The weight was considerable, but he moved as if it barely mattered, one foot in front of the other. Measured steps carried him toward the open ship bay where the repair bots still labored. Their movements were methodical, a stark contrast to the urgency of living hands. Max reached the ramp, the metal groaning under his weight. "Where do you want this thing?" he grunted. One of the bots turned, its expression neutral, unreadable. "Please bring it here." A precise gesture, mechanical efficiency overriding human exhaustion. Max lowered the part carefully, setting it exactly where the bot indicated. "This good?" A brief whir as the bot processed. "Yes, that is fine, thank you." Max exhaled, rolling his shoulders, shaking off the lingering ache. Ray stepped forward, arms crossed. "How long until it's ready?" The second bot barely paused in its work. "If the part is fully operational, estimated completion, 2 hours, 38 minutes. Then without further acknowledgement, it resumed its task. Ray let out a breath, rubbing a tired hand over his face. "Good." Then practicality reasserted itself. "Everyone, get cleaned up. Grab a quick bite. After that, we finish prepping the ship." They crossed the compound, boots kicking up dust and fatigue. The air smelled of fuel, rust, and sweat. As they neared the kitchen, the door swung open, and Frank backed out, his arms loaded with a supply crate. Ray lifted a brow. "Still food inside?" Frank barely glanced up, his expression unreadable. "Yeah, just moving some stuff I won't be using today." He kept walking, unhurried, unaffected. Ray fell into step beside him. "We got the part. Bots say the ship should be good in a couple of hours." Frank grunted. "Ara said we probably won't leave it till tomorrow. Maybe later." Ray halted mid-step. "I haven't talked to him since we got back." Frank gave a slight nod toward the building. "He's inside. You can talk to him now." And with that, Frank walked off. Ray watched him go. Then he turned toward the door, expression unreadable, and stepped inside. Max held the door open as the group filed into the room. He nodded toward the far side. "There he is." Ray walked past him, his gaze already locked on the man standing at the far end of the room. Eris. He stood calm and composed, his focus lowered toward a table lined with assorted food. Frank had prepared a spread, not his usual large meal, but enough to keep everyone going. It was a common ritual for days like this, days when a last-minute job forced them into motion, leaving no time for full-course meals. Aras lifted his head. His expression was neutral, but there was something behind his eyes, a man always planning, always seeing further than the present. "I see you all made it in one piece." A pause, then, the real question, how did everything go? Ray exhaled, stepping further inside. "We got the part. Repair bots are installing it now." A brief pause. "They estimate it'll be done in a couple of hours." Max, still near the table, picked up something to eat. He chewed deliberately, then added, "If the part is good." Aris gave a single nod. That's good news. He set his plate down, his gaze now shifting toward the new faces. His voice lowered slightly, carrying an air of polite command. Hello, everyone. My name is Aris. Each of them introduced themselves in turn. John, Chi, Tom, Valerie, Scott. Aris studied them as they spoke, his expression giving away nothing. Then, a small, polite smile. Nice to meet all of you. A pause, then a statement, not a suggestion. I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to get to know each other on our voyage. Ray, arms crossed, shifted his weight. When do you think we'll leave? His tone was measured. Aris met his gaze. Patience, my friend. We need more supplies. Ray's expression tightened. What kind of supplies? Aris glanced at Frank as he returned, then back to Ray. Food. A simple answer, but one with weight. Frank tells me we don't have enough to last the trip. He leaned slightly forward. And considering we're far from any known spaceports, it would be best if we stocked up now. Ray exhaled. Then, the inevitable question. That means we have to go out again, doesn't it? Yes, it does. A pause. Aris looked directly at Ray. There's a school not far from here. They should have a supply of prepared meals stored for students. From what you told me, the Clemillians have already passed through that area. They're likely pressing deeper into the city. A slight shift in his posture. That means this might be our best opportunity. Max, still chewing, finally spoke. His words thick with food but carrying weight nonetheless. We took down some of those Clemillians today. Aris's eyebrow lifted slightly. Really? His voice was curious and thoughtful. Then, a sharper edge. How did that go? Silence settled over the room. Because that answer wasn't simple, and Aris knew it. Max folded his arms, expression unreadable, as he began his report. After the owner and one of his workers turned on us, a small group of those ugly things came into the junkyard. His voice was flat, direct. No embellishments, just fact. They fired on us. We fought back. It was a heated battle, but we took them out. Then, a slight shake of his head. They had solid armor. Took 3, sometimes 4, direct hits before going down. Aris listened without reaction, his gaze sharp, considering. Then, Ray interjected. A smirk crept onto his face as he jerked a thumb toward John and Chi. Yeah, and these two almost won the battle by themselves. Aris's eyes shifted between them, assessing. Then he turned back to Ray. How did they do that? Ray's smirk grew. I told them to stay in the building. They didn't listen. A small chuckle. Instead, they ran out into the open and rushed the attackers. His hand gestured toward Chi. This one, her aim was dead on. Didn't waste a single shot. Then he patted John's shoulder. And this guy, he was rolling and dodging blaster fire like a damn hologame hero. Aris's expression didn't change, but his eyes flickered with interest. A moment of silence stretched between them. Aris nodded his head. It sounds like you two were impressive today. Another pause and then a decision. I'm going with you to the school. I want the details firsthand. His voice carried no room for argument. We should head out after eating. That way we'll be back before dark. He set his plate down, dropped it off in the kitchen, and, without another word, left. The others washed up, grabbed food, and found places to sit. A few moments of quiet, save for the sounds of chewing and thought. Then Tom leaned in closer to John. His voice was low, skeptical. So we're just supposed to go on another run now? John didn't look up. You heard Aris. If we don't get more food, we might starve before we even get to where we're going. Tom's fingers tapped against the table, restless. Then, a whisper. I think they're just using us, and when it's time to leave, they'll ditch us. John finally looked up. His voice was calm and confident. I don't get that feeling. Tom's brow furrowed. John continued looking at his friend. They seem on the up and up. I think we'll be fine. Then John exhaled. Besides, right now they're our best shot at getting out of here. Tom grumbled, leaning back in his chair. I hope you're right. His voice dropped lower. I sure don't want to be some dinosaur's meal if we have to walk back to the city from here. Before John could respond, Ray sat down beside them. What's up? John barely hesitated. Nothing, just talking about the school run. Tom glanced at him, then to Ray. Is it the same school you picked us up from? Ray shook his head. Nah, another one. A high school, not too far from here. Silence settled for a beat. They finished eating and walked out toward the truck. As they stood there waiting, their eyes drifted toward the Eagle. Eris stood on the back of the ship, inspecting the ongoing repairs. Another silent moment passed. They knew. Soon they'd be on the move again. Eris's voice cut through the air, carrying with it an edge of finality. Good news. The others turned toward him as he stood atop the Eagle, his stance firm, his gaze sweeping over them. The repair bots ran diagnostics on the part. It's fully operational. A pause, then the confirmation. They'll have the ship ready on schedule. Ray exhaled, nodding once. A hint of satisfaction flickered in his expression. That is good news. He turned toward the others, rolling his shoulders as if shedding the last weight of uncertainty. Then, a sharp breath, a decision locked in. Now, we get our supplies. His voice carried an unspoken promise. And then, we're out of here. A flicker of relief passed through the group at Aris's announcement. For the first time in what felt like days, there was a path forward. Aris descended the ramp, his footsteps measured, unhurried. He joined them, his gaze settling on the nearest truck. There won't be enough room for all of us in the shuttle, not if we're bringing back supplies. He gestured toward the brown double-cab truck. John, Chi, you two come with me. We'll follow behind. John and Chi exchanged a glance. No words needed. The others watched as they turned and followed Aris. Ray climbed into the shuttle's cockpit, his fingers moving instinctively over the controls. The engines hummed to life, lifting the vehicle vertically above the camp. With a press of a button, the cage door yawned open. Tom peered out, watching Aris, John, and Chi still on the ground. Aren't we going to wait for them? Ray's eyes remained on the horizon. We'll take it slow. They'll catch up. The shuttle drifted forward, slipping over the jungle canopy and heading toward the school. John and Chi followed Aris across the camp, their footsteps crunching against loose dirt and gravel. At the back fence, a smaller truck waited. Aris climbed in, barely looking back. Hop in. They did. The truck lifted, skimming just above the treetops, weaving through the dense jungle. Ahead, Ray's shuttle loomed in the distance. They caught up just before reaching the barrier. Aris's eyes flicked toward the controls. I see they deactivated the barrier. Chi leaned forward slightly, watching the invisible threshold pass beneath them. I kind of thought that too when we crossed earlier. John furrowed his brow. How can you tell if it's up or down? Aris tapped the instrument panel. I'm not picking up any readings. Chi's fingers tightened slightly on the armrest. She glanced down through the window. So that means dinosaurs can come through? The barrier had always seemed absolute, impenetrable. Now, it was just an idea fading in the wind. John exhaled, still watching the wall. It just seemed so well protected, even without the guns. Aris's gaze remained steady. It would be tough for anything to get over. A pause, a slight frown, then a realization settled in. The problem isn't the wall itself, it's the land routes running through it. John's chest tightened. He hadn't considered that. Aris's voice dropped slightly. If any of the gates were open when they deactivated it, Chi finished the thought, then dinosaurs could have already made it through. She turned, locking eyes with him. A silent understanding passed between them. The world was shifting again, and they were only just beginning to realize how much. Aras gave a short nod, his expression unreadable. That's exactly right. His voice carried a quiet certainty, the weight of someone who had long since thought ahead. But I'm sure the Clemillians will figure that out soon enough. John exhaled, processing. Then, another thought. What about flying dinosaurs? He frowned slightly. Couldn't they just go over the wall? Chi's brows lifted slightly. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Aras didn't flinch. Good question. He tapped a few controls on the dashboard, barely looking up as he spoke. There is a system in place that targets anything airborne with a sonic beam. It doesn't kill them, just forces them to turn back. Chi's eyes narrowed slightly, intrigued. Interesting. I know sonic beams have a lot of applications, but I've never heard of them being used like that. Aris gave the faintest of smirks. New worlds, new problems, new solutions. They approached the school, circling overhead. A silent, scorched ruin. Burn marks streaked across the green manicured lawns, now trampled and stained with the lifeless bodies of those who had once walked them. Smoke still curled from a charred wooden structure at the edge of the woods. For a moment, no one spoke. Satisfied that the enemy had moved on, they descended, landing directly on the concrete walkway in front of the cafeteria entrance. The hollow silence of the place pressed around them. Wow, this place looks deserted. Tom's voice was quiet, as if saying it too loudly might wake something. What if we find survivors? Should we look? Should we try to help them? A breath. Then, Max's voice cold and direct. Our mission is not to find survivors. His gaze was stern, unapologetic. We're here for supplies. That's why we haven't left you and your friends behind. A moment of silence stretched between them. Tom's shoulders stiffened, his eyes flickering up toward Max before quickly looking away. Oh, okay. His voice was smaller now. He stepped back slightly, slinking toward the others. Ray leaned in close to Max, lowering his voice. Take it easy on him. Max huffed. He should know why we're here. His voice was firm, but something behind his eyes wavered, just slightly. If it weren't for him and his friends, we would be long gone. Ray's jaw tensed. You forget we had to get the part to fix the ship. Max's lips pressed into a thin line. Yeah, well, maybe we wouldn't be long gone. A pause. But we wouldn't be here trying to scrounge up food? Ray sighed, running a hand over his face. Come on, let's get this done. And with that, he walked toward the others. Max lingered a second longer. Then he followed. Aris's voice carried an edge of quiet authority, cutting through the tense air. Does everyone have their weapons ready? A pause. Each one of them gave a nod, a silent affirmation of readiness. Aris took a slow breath. I don't know what we're walking into, so keep your eyes open. Stay sharp. Be prepared for anything. A pause, and then his voice dropped slightly. Follow me. They moved carefully, boots pressing against cold concrete, the silence around them thick, expectant. A short flight of stairs led up to the entrance. The building loomed like a hollowed-out relic of something that once thrived. They stopped just outside the range of the sensors, keeping the doors from reacting. Aris, Ray, and Max leaned in, peering through the smudged glass. Inside, stillness. Shadows, a silent void waiting. Aris's eyes scanned the foyer. Looks deserted. His voice was low, cautious. Okay, let's go. Ray stepped forward, waving a hand in front of the sensor. Nothing. Another wave. Still nothing. Ray's brows furrowed. Doors won't open. Aris let out a breath. Should have figured. No backup power. Scott's voice came calm and informative. With the power down, the doors should slide open manually. Ray stepped closer, placing his hands against the glass. Let's try to pry them open. He pushed sideways, a slow, strained creak. Valerie's hand tightened around Scott's arm. It's working. The doors shuddered, then yielded. A wave of stale air met them as they stepped into the semi-darkness of the building. The silence was thicker inside, heavier. Ahead, a massive staircase leading upward. Flanking it, a set of large wooden double doors. Ray reached for one of the metal handles, his fingers curling around the worn surface. A glance at Max, then a slow pull. The door opened just slightly, a whisper of movement. Max leaned in, his gaze slipping into the void beyond. Darkness, complete, absolute. His voice was quiet, cautious. Can't see a damn thing in there. Aris exhaled, glancing at Ray. We need light. Ray nodded. Tom, Scott, there should be some glow sticks in the truck. Back compartment. Grab a few. Without hesitation, Tom and Scott turned and jogged back. The others stood in tense silence, propping the doors open just enough to let some light in. Max stepped inside. A pause. His boots pressed against the cold tile, the sound echoing. His voice came low, quiet. Must be the dining hall. The sound carries. Then, movement behind them. Here you go. Tom and Scott returned, a bundle of glow sticks in hand. Aris took one, cracking it. A soft green glow pulsed into the darkness. For the first time, they could see what waited inside. Aris nodded as he took a glow stick from Scott's outstretched hand. You're correct, Max. His voice was low, steady, unwavering. He snapped the glow stick to life, the pale light pushing against the darkness. The shadows recoiled just enough to reveal the edges of the vast room. The storage area should be over there. He pointed toward the far end of the dining hall. Follow me. They moved quickly. The silence felt oppressive, broken only by their footsteps. Folded tables and chairs lined the walls, abandoned. They passed the serving area, slipping through the swinging doors into the kitchen. The air changed instantly. A foul stench thickened the space, rotting food left to decay since the first attacks. Tom grimaced, covering his nose. With the power out, won't that ruin the supplies? Aris barely glanced back. They stock packaged food here, things that don't require refrigeration. His eyes scanned the dark kitchen, a glow stick raised. Then, a glint of something ahead, a door. I think it's over here. He stepped forward and pushed it open. A pause, and then the soft rustle of air against unmoving shelves. Aris held his glow stick high, casting eerie light over the storage room. Metal racks loomed along the walls, stacked with plain, unmarked boxes. He reached up and pulled one down, tore it open. Inside, sealed packages, intact. He exhaled. Here's our supply. His gaze swept the room again. There should be some carts in here. We'll need them to move these. John stepped forward. I think I saw a cart outside. Hold on. He disappeared into the dark kitchen. A moment later, he returned, pushing a flat cart, one wheel squeaking with every turn. Ray found another. They began loading supplies, working fast. The silence became rhythmic, the sound of boxes shifting, boots scuffing against the floor, and the occasional creak of metal. Then John broke it. How do you know this place so well? Aris didn't hesitate. We've delivered supplies here before. A pause. He picked up another box, barely looking at John. What's that? Max's voice was sharp, alert. He had stopped mid-movement, head tilting slightly. He approached the kitchen entrance, peering into the massive dining hall. Ray was at his side in seconds. His hand landed on Max's shoulder, firm. What is it? Max's jaw tensed. I thought I saw lights, flickering. Then, confirmation. A burst of plasma fire seared through the air, blasting into the entrance. Sparks exploded against the walls. The shots landed dangerously close to the others as they pushed the carts. Then, a sound, a voice, guttural, harsh, alien. Then, the pounding of boots. The echo reverberated through the space, filling every corner with the promise of coming violence. Max turned, eyes locking onto Ray's. A slight pause. Then, a single question, sharp and unyielding. What the hell kind of language is that? Ray's voice snapped like a whip. I'll give you one guess. Then, movement. He yanked Max down just as another plasma shot ripped past them, searing the air. Ray fired blindly into the dining hall, his body twisting mid-motion as he dove behind cover. Take cover! Aris's voice cut through the chaos. He gestured sharply to a row of stainless steel counters. Get behind these. I'm taking the other entrance. He moved before anyone could argue, low, fast, precise. He reached the end of the counter, then rolled, drawing two blasters mid-motion. A sudden halt, a pivot, arms extended. Fire. Plasma bursts erupted from both barrels, tearing into the dining hall. His barrage pulled the attention of the Clemillians, forcing them to redirect their fire. Shots sliced past him, too close. But he didn't flinch, didn't falter. He sidestepped, fluid and merciless, adjusting his angle, his shots more precise. Ray and Max caught the shift and saw the opening. They joined the attack, pouring fire into the darkened room. Elsewhere, movement. John and Chi slipped toward a narrow opening overlooking the dining hall. Their hands tightened around their weapons. Deep breath. Focus. They peered over the edge. A violent storm of plasma fire streaked through the darkness, illuminating flashes of their attackers. They opened fire, angles sharp, calculated. Blasts tore through the air, forcing the Clemillians into retreat. The surviving invaders backpedaled, covering themselves in retreat. They turned and ran for the exit. Some didn't make it. 2 fell mid-sprint, plasma shots searing through their armor. The last disappeared through the doors. Eris didn't hesitate. "Bring the supplies. I'm going after him before he calls for help." Then he was moving. The room burned in patches, small fires licking at overturned chairs and bodies. The Clemillian was fast, but Eris was faster. He reached the double doors. A plasma shot snapped past him, scorching the air where he had passed a fraction of a second before. Eris's instincts reacted faster than thought. He threw himself into a slide, dropping low, momentum carrying him past the safety of the door. A bad position, exposed, no cover, but no hesitation. His fingers tightened on the triggers. His blaster spat fire, forcing the Clemillian into retreat. The soldier ducked behind the stairwell, then turned and ran for the front door. Eris pushed up to his feet, already giving chase. The Clemillian was big, heavy armor slowing him down. Eris was lighter, faster. He aimed, fired. The Clemillian dropped. His body slammed into the pavement. Still, silent. Eris lowered his weapons, stepping closer, the heat of battle still thrumming through his veins. One last breath. Then he yelled to the others, "Get the supplies, we're leaving." The others were already pushing the carts forward, their boots scuffing against the floor as they moved across the dining hall. They reached the double doors just as Eris returned. Max stopped, gripping his cart. His voice was steady but expectant. "Did you get him?" Eris gave a slight nod, barely breaking stride as he kicked a Clemillian blaster aside, clearing the path. "Yeah, caught him just outside the front door." Max exhaled, shaking his head. Then, the question still hanging in the air. "How the hell did they know we were here?" He started pushing again, his eyes still scanning. Ray's voice came from behind him. "Might have seen us come out of the jungle." A pause. "Could have followed us here." Eris considered that for a moment, then gave a slight nod. "Could be." Then, back to business. "Ray, back the truck up. Get it as close as possible to the stairs. We need to load fast." No hesitation. Ray climbed into the truck, reversing it carefully, its engine humming against the unnatural silence that had settled over the school. They formed a chain, passing boxes from hand to hand, working quickly and efficiently. Then, fire. A blaster burst shrieked through the air. The impact tore through the last remaining cart, sending supplies tumbling down the stairs in a spray of scorched debris. Valerie and Tom went down with them. "Get down!" Eris shouted, already spinning toward the source. Max crouched near the truck, his weapon ready. "Did you see where that came from?" Ray pulled his own blaster, eyes sweeping the area. "Nope." Scott was already scrambling to Valerie and Tom. His voice was tight with concern. "Are you two okay?" Valerie groaned, rubbing her elbow. "Yeah, I'm fine." Tom wiped charred food from his face, scowling. "Just knocked us off balance." Eris appeared beside them, his presence immediate, commanding. "You three, get to the truck. Load the supplies. Get the Eagle ready to go." Tom hesitated, his expression darkening. "What about John and Chi?" Eris's response was absolute, final. "They're staying with me. We're holding the Clemillians off so you can get out. Now move." Valerie, Scott, and Tom didn't argue. They scrambled toward the truck, staying low. 2 more shots sliced past them, just missing the edge of the vehicle. Max returned fire immediately, his blast punching back toward the unseen attacker. Scott slid to a stop beside Ray. His breath was sharp, urgent. "Eris wants us to get the Eagle prepped. We need to go." Ray looked up the staircase. Eris was crouched in the bushes, his hand flicking in a sharp signal. "Move." Ray didn't hesitate. He climbed into the driver's seat, Max jumping in beside him. As he powered up the engines, John, Chi, and Eris opened fire, pinning their attacker down. Plasma streaked through the air, forcing the Clemillian into cover. Ray didn't wait. The truck lifted off, dust swirling beneath it as he hit full acceleration. They sped toward the jungle, leaving the firefight behind, and leaving John, Chi, and Aris to face what came next. Aris's voice was low, measured, and absolute. "You two stay here. I'll draw him out by running to the parking lot." His gaze flicked between them, sharp and unwavering. "Don't shoot until you have a clear shot." John and Chi nodded once, watching as Aris pushed forward, his body a blur of motion. Then, fire. A volley of plasma blasts cut through the air, slicing dangerously close. One struck a car just as Aris dove behind it. Sparks exploded upward, metal shrieking in protest. Aris stayed low, chest heaving, waiting, calculating. More blasts tore into the vehicle, punching into its rusted frame and sending echoes through the empty parking lot. Then, a pause. John and Chi held their breath, watching, waiting. Then, movement. The chameleon shifted, his form ducking low, moving behind a cluster of trees. Another shot rang out, aimed at Aras's position. A test, an attempt to goad Aras into revealing himself. No response. The chameleon hesitated. Then, a decision. He ran forward. Low to the ground, his bulk moving with surprising speed. He fired twice more, closing the distance. John and Chi had seen this pattern before. They didn't move, didn't breathe. They simply waited. Then, as if on cue, the soldier broke cover, a straight sprint toward another vehicle. John and Chi opened fire. Plasma ripped through the air, striking his armor. He went down. Hard. Aris was up in an instant. He crossed the space in a blur, weapon trained as he reached the fallen chameleon. John and Chi moved in fast, meeting him at the body. The chameleon groaned, his chest rising, labored. A weak hand reached for his weapon. Aris kicked it away. Silence. A slow, rattling breath escaped through the soldier's helmet. Then, nothing. Chi lifted her blaster, aiming directly at his motionless form. She hesitated. Then, a question. Is he dead? Aris's gaze lingered on the fallen warrior. Then slowly, he looked up at her. "I believe so." A pause and then a shift. Urgency returning. "Come on, we need to move." They took off, cutting across the lawn toward the waiting vehicle. John exhaled, glancing over his shoulder. "I hope we don't run into more of them." Aris snorted, jumping over a fallen branch. "You can bet they already called for reinforcements." Chi kept pace, her mind working through something. Then, another question. Why didn't their armor protect them like it did in the junkyard? Aris didn't look back. His voice was flat, practical. "When you told me about how strong their armor was," a pause, "I increased the power of the blasters." They reached the truck in silence, the weight of the last battle still settling over them. Aris slid into the driver's seat, hands steady as he brought the engine to life. The vehicle lifted, cutting a direct path toward the jungle, avoiding the open terrain where more troops would indeed be arriving. John sat in the passenger seat, watching the landscape blur past them. Then, the question formed before he could stop it. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" Aris's eyes remained forward, unwavering. His voice was calm, matter-of-fact. "I was in Special Forces during the Runian Rebellion." John blinked. "Runian Rebellion? Never heard of it." Aris gave the faintest half-smile, one without warmth. "Not many people have." A pause, and then he continued, voice lower now. "It was a small, out-of-the-way place. Some lunatic leader plunged the planet into civil war. I had just finished my training when they shipped us out. It lasted about a year." John let the words sink in. The idea of living through something like that, fighting in something like that, felt impossible. "I could never do what you did," he muttered. "Me neither," she added quietly. Aris turned his head slightly, his gaze meeting theirs in the dim glow of the dashboard lights. "You're wrong." A pause. "You both have the ability to do what I did." John's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" Aris turned back toward the road ahead. "I'll explain later." The words carried finality, yet something unspoken lingered beneath them. Then the camp appeared on the horizon. "First, we get the ship ready."
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this presentation, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss future audiobooks. You'll find links below to explore our books and grab official merch. We've also included some affiliate links to the tools we use to bring this project to life.